The rag hit the counter with a wet slap. I froze, my hands still gripping the sponge I'd been using to scrub the morning dishes. For a moment, I thought I'd imagined it, that damp, dirty kitchen rag sailing through the air and landing inches from my fingers. But then I heard her voice, sharp as broken glass. From today, cleaning and grocery shopping are all yours. No more free time. I turned slowly. Cecilia stood in the doorway of my kitchen, wearing designer heels that clicked against the hardwood floor George had installed 40 years ago. Her sunglasses perched on top of her head like a crown. Her arms crossed over her chest, manicured nails drumming against her elbow. "Excuse me?" The words came out softer than I intended. She sighed dramatically. "You heard me, Margareta. You're home all day. You don't work. You don't have kids to look after anymore. So you can handle the cleaning, the laundry, the grocery runs. I need time for myself." Bernard and I both agreed it's only fair. Have you ever welcomed someone into your home with open arms, only to watch them slowly claim it as their own? Tell me in the comments if you've ever felt invisible in your own life. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. My heart hammered against my ribs. Bernard said this? Her smile widened, smug and satisfied. He did. He knows it's the right thing. You've had your life, Margareta. It's our turn now. Think of it as contributing to the household. Contributing to the household. In the house I'd lived in for over 50 years. The house where I'd raised my son. The house where my husband died upstairs, holding my hand. The house where every floorboard creaked with memory. I should have seen it coming. The small comments over the years, how I folded towels wrong, how my cooking was too old-fashioned. The eye rolls when I offered advice. The way she'd started introducing me to her friends as Bernard's mother who lives with us, as if this hadn't been my home first. 2 years, they'd said when they moved in after the wedding. Just until we get on our feet. 2 years became 5. 5 became 12. And somewhere in those 12 years, my daughter-in-law had decided I was no longer family. I was staff. I looked down at the rag on my counter, still damp and dirty. Then I looked back at her, standing in my kitchen with her expensive clothes and entitled smile, waiting for me to agree. Something inside me, something that had been bending for years, finally shifted. Not broke. Shifted. Like a door closing quietly but firmly. "I see," I said softly. She seemed satisfied. "Good. I'm meeting Jennifer for lunch, so I'll need you to pick up groceries this afternoon." I left a list on the fridge. "Make sure you get the organic chicken this time." She turned to leave, heels clicking. "Cecilia." She paused, glancing back. I picked up the dirty rag. Held it. Then I walked to the sink and began washing it under cold water, watching the dirt swirl down the drain. "I'll take care of it." "Perfect." She smiled and disappeared down the hallway. I stood there after she left, hands in cold water, watching the rag turn clean. Outside, October leaves drifted past. The same view I'd seen every autumn for decades. But as I wrung out that rag and hung it over the faucet, I felt something new. Not anger. Something colder. Something patient. Because Cecilia had made a mistake that morning. She'd assumed quiet meant weak. That kind meant pushover. That 75 years of keeping peace meant I didn't know how to wage war. I looked out the window at the house that had been in my family for 80 years, and I made a decision. True justice doesn't need shouting. It unfolds piece by piece, until the pattern becomes undeniable. And Cecilia was about to learn that the hardest lessons come from the quietest teachers. If someone threw a rag at you and demanded you become their servant in your own home, what would you do? Drop your answer in the comments and hit that like button and subscribe, because what happens next will shock you. The smell of fresh paint still hung in the air the day Bernard brought Cecilia home to meet me. I remember standing on the porch, wiping flour from my hands onto my apron, watching them pull up in Bernard's old truck. She stepped out wearing a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Her hair caught the sunlight. She smiled at me, warm, genuine, or so I thought. "Mrs. Alden, Bernard's told me so much about you," she said, taking my hand in both of hers. Her skin was soft. No calluses. No rough spots from years of work. "Please call me Margareta," I said, pulling her into a hug. "Welcome to the family." That was 15 years ago. Before the wedding. Before they moved into the upstairs floor. Before I understood what welcome really meant to someone like Cecilia. George was still alive then. He shook Cecilia's hand, offered her sweet tea, showed her around the property like it was a museum. "This house has been in Margareta's family since 1943, he told her, pride in his voice. Her grandfather built it with his own hands. Every board, every nail." Cecilia smiled politely, but I caught her glance, quick, assessing, at the outdated wallpaper in the hallway, the worn spot on the living room carpet. "Do you remember the first time you met someone and got a strange feeling but ignored it because you wanted to be kind? Comment below if you've ever ignored your gut instinct about someone." The wedding was beautiful. Small, intimate, held in our backyard under the oak tree where Bernard had his first treehouse. I paid for most of it. Cecilia's family sent money, but not much. Her mother made excuses about expenses. Her father didn't come at all. I didn't mind helping. Bernard was my only child. His happiness mattered more than money. 2 months after the wedding, they asked if they could move into the upstairs floor. "Just temporarily, Mom," Bernard said, sitting at this very kitchen table. 2 years, maybe less. "We're saving for our own place, but rent in the city is crazy right now. We'd pay you, of course." I waved away the offer of payment. "Don't be silly. Your family. The upstairs has been empty since you moved out anyway. It's yours."
Cecilia hugged me that day.
"Thank you, Margareta. You're so generous. We won't be a burden, I promise." George warned me later that night as we got ready for bed. 2 years might turn into more, he said quietly. "People get comfortable. They're young," I said. "They need help. Isn't that what family does?" He kissed my forehead. "Your heart's too big sometimes, Maggie." Maybe he was right. The first year was pleasant. Cecilia helped with dishes, sometimes. She'd sit with me in the evenings, talking about her job at the marketing firm, her dreams of traveling. Bernard was happy. The house felt full again, alive with voices and laughter. But George got sick that winter. Cancer, fast and mean. By spring, he was gone. The house changed after his funeral. Or maybe I just noticed things differently, without him there to buffer the silence. Cecilia stopped helping with dishes. She started sleeping later, leaving breakfast messes for me to clean. Small things. Easy to excuse. "She's tired from work," Bernard would say. "Cut her some slack, Mom." I did. I always did. Their first baby arrived 3 years after George died. A beautiful little girl named Emma. I fell in love the moment I held her. I helped with midnight feedings, changed diapers, rocked her to sleep when Cecilia was too exhausted. "I don't know what I'd do without you," Cecilia said one night, bleary-eyed and grateful. I believed her. But something shifted after Emma's first birthday. Cecilia started making decisions about the house without asking me. She repainted the downstairs bathroom, my bathroom, without mentioning it. I came home from church one Sunday to find the soft yellow George, and I had chosen replaced with harsh gray. "It's more modern," she explained when I stood speechless in the doorway. "You don't mind, do you?" It needed updating. I minded, but I said nothing. Then she rearranged the living room furniture. The couch George and I had saved months to buy, she shoved it against the wall to make room for a larger television. The coffee table his father built by hand, she moved it to the basement. "We need more space for Emma to play," she said, not looking at me. Bernard laughed when I mentioned it.
"Come on, Mom.
"It's just furniture." Cecilia's trying to make the place more family-friendly. Family-friendly. as if it hadn't been a family home for 80 years before she arrived. I stood in that rearranged living room after they went upstairs, looking at the empty spot where George's father's table used to sit. The spot worn into the carpet from decades of Sunday dinners and Christmas mornings and quiet evenings with books and tea. And I realized something that made my chest tight. Cecilia wasn't planning to leave in 2 years. She wasn't even planning to leave in 12. She was erasing me, piece by piece, replacing my home with hers. And Bernard, my sweet Bernard, was too blinded by love to see it happening. That night, I pulled out the old photo albums. Pictures of George and me on our wedding day. Bernard as a baby. Christmases and birthdays. This house, full of memory and meaning. I ran my fingers over George's face in one photo, taken right here in this kitchen. "You saw it coming," I whispered. "You tried to tell me." Upstairs, I heard Cecilia laugh at something on television. Bernard's voice joined hers. Normal.
Happy.
Unaware. I closed the album slowly and looked toward the ceiling, toward the life happening above my head in rooms that used to be mine alone. Something cold settled in my stomach. Not quite anger yet. Something quieter. Something that would take time to grow. But grow it would. If you've ever felt like a stranger in your own home, type yes in the comments. And don't go anywhere. The next chapter reveals when I finally realized what I was up against. "You baby her too much, Bernard." Cecilia's voice cut through the evening air like a blade. I was in the kitchen, hand frozen on the refrigerator door, invisible to them in the living room, but able to hear every word. "She's my mother, Cecilia." Bernard's voice was tired. Defensive. "She's not a child. She doesn't need you running to check on her every time she has a doctor's appointment. She's perfectly capable. She's 73. So? My grandmother is 78 and lives alone just fine. Your mother has you wrapped around her finger, and honestly, it's embarrassing." I closed the refrigerator quietly, my appetite gone. The casserole I'd planned to heat up could wait. Or maybe I wouldn't eat it all. Have you ever heard someone talk about you like you're a burden? Like you're some inconvenient problem to manage? Let me know in the comments if you've experienced this. That conversation happened on a Tuesday in September, 2 weeks before Cecilia threw the rag. I should have confronted it then. Should have walked into that living room and said something. But old habits die hard, and I'd spent 75 years choosing peace over confrontation. So I went upstairs to my bedroom, the master bedroom I'd shared with George, the room I'd given up when they needed more space for the nursery, and I sat on the edge of the bed in what used to be the guest room. The walls were thin. I could hear Bernard trying to defend me, his voice getting quieter as Cecilia's got sharper. Eventually, he stopped arguing altogether. That silence hurt worse than her words. The next morning, I made breakfast like always. Pancakes, bacon, scrambled eggs. Bernard came down first, kissed my cheek, grabbed coffee. Normal. Like nothing happened. Cecilia appeared 20 minutes later, already dressed in her expensive workout clothes. She looked at the breakfast spread, then at me. "I'm doing keto now, Margareta. Carbs aren't good for you anyway. You should try it." She grabbed a hard-boiled egg from the refrigerator, one I hadn't made for her, and walked out. Bernard glanced between us, uncomfortable. "The pancakes look great, Mom." But he only ate one before checking his watch and leaving for work. I stood in that kitchen surrounded by food nobody wanted, and I felt something crack inside my chest. Not break. Just crack. Like ice on a pond at the start of spring. The disrespect kept building. Little paper cuts, one after another. She started making comments about my clothes. "Is that what you're wearing to Emma's school play? It's a bit dated, don't you think?" She criticized my cooking in front of guests. "Margareta makes everything with so much butter. I'm trying to teach Bernard healthier habits." She rolled her eyes when I offered to help with Emma's homework. "We've got it covered, thanks."
And Bernard?
Bernard said nothing. He'd become a ghost in his own life, nodding along to whatever Cecilia decided, too exhausted from work and marriage to fight battles he didn't even realize were happening. Then came that October afternoon. I was humming while scrubbing counters, trying to find peace in routine. The kitchen was my sanctuary, the one place in this house that still felt like mine. Morning light came through the window above the sink, warming my hands. Cecilia burst in like a storm, heels clicking, sunglasses perched on her head, and that rag in her hand. When she threw it, time seemed to slow down. I watched it arc through the air, dirty and damp, landing with a wet slap on the counter I'd just cleaned. From today, cleaning and grocery shopping are all yours. No more free time. The words landed harder than the rag. I turned to face her, searching her expression for some hint of humanity, some acknowledgement that she was talking to a person, not a servant. But her face was set, determined. She'd made a decision about my life without including me in the conversation. "Excuse me?" I said softly. She sighed, impatient. "You heard me. You're home all day doing nothing. Bernard and I work. We need you to contribute. Handle the cleaning, the laundry, the groceries. I have Pilates, lunch dates, my life. This is fair."
Fair.
That word sat in my stomach like a stone. "And Bernard agreed to this?" I asked, already knowing the answer, but needing to hear it. "Of course he did." Her smile was smug, triumphant. "He knows it's the right thing. You've had your life, Margareta. It's our turn now. Think of it as earning your keep. Earning my keep. In my own house." I looked at her standing there in my kitchen, in the house my grandfather built, on the floor George installed, under the lights I paid to keep on. And something inside me shifted. Not snapped, not broke. Shifted. Like a lock clicking into place. Like a door closing. Like a woman who'd been bending for 12 years finally deciding she was done. "I see," I said quietly. She seemed satisfied with my compliance. "Good." I left a grocery list on the fridge. "Get the organic chicken this time. The regular stuff is full of hormones." She turned, heels clicking toward the door. "Cecilia," I said. She glanced back, eyebrows raised. I picked up the rag, held it, walked to the sink, and turned on the cold water. "I'll take care of it," I said, my voice steady as stone. "Perfect." She left, just walked out. Probably didn't give me another thought for the rest of her day. But I stood at that sink for a long time after she was gone, washing that dirty rag under cold water, watching the grime swirl down the drain, watching it turn clean in my hands. And as I wrung it out and hung it carefully over the faucet, I felt something new spreading through my chest. Something cold and patient and absolutely certain. Cecilia had just made the biggest mistake of her entitled life. She'd assumed that quiet meant powerless, that kindness meant weakness, that 75 years of choosing peace meant I didn't know how to choose war. She was about to learn differently. Do you think Cecilia deserves what's coming to her? Comment yes if you're ready to see Margareta take her life back. And make sure you're subscribed. The next chapter shows exactly how the quiet revolution begins. The first thing I stopped doing was her laundry. It wasn't dramatic. No announcements, no arguments. I simply folded Bernard's shirts and Emma's small dresses and left Cecilia's expensive blouses in a basket by the washing machine. She noticed 3 days later. I was in the garden, pulling weeds from around the tomato plants, when she appeared on the back porch. "Margareta, my clothes are still sitting in the laundry room, unfolded." I looked up, squinting against the afternoon sun. "Are they clean?" "Well, yes, but..." "Then I'm sure you can manage the folding. My arthritis has been acting up." I turned back to the weeds. It wasn't a lie. My hands did ache. But they'd been aching for years, and I'd never stopped before. She stood there for a moment, silent. Then she huffed and went back inside. Have you ever quietly stopped doing something for someone who took you for granted? Tell me in the comments what happened when they finally noticed. The grocery shopping was next. When Cecilia left her usual list on the fridge, organic chicken, imported cheese, fancy coffee beans, exotic fruits, I took it to the store. But I only bought the essentials. Milk,
Bread. Eggs.
basic chicken, regular coffee. Everything else? I left those squares on her list unchecked. That evening, she unpacked the bags with increasing frustration. Where's the goat cheese? The arugula? The dark roast Colombian coffee? They didn't have it, I said simply, stirring a pot of soup that would only feed me and Emma. That's impossible. They always have it. I shrugged. Must have been out. She stared at me like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Then she grabbed her purse. I'll go get it myself. All right, dear. She didn't ask me to watch Emma, so I didn't offer. When Emma asked where Mommy went, I said, to the store, sweetheart. Want to help Grandma make cookies? Cecilia came back an hour later, irritated and laden with shopping bags she'd had to carry herself. These small changes, these tiny withdrawals of my labor, began to pile up. The vacuum sat unused in the closet. The windows stayed streaked. The bathroom counter collected toothpaste spots and makeup stains. Bernard noticed when he couldn't find a clean work shirt one morning. Mom, did you do laundry yesterday? I did, I said, sipping my tea. Yours is in your dresser. Second drawer. What about Cecilia's? I imagine Cecilia's laundry is wherever Cecilia left it. He blinked at me, confused. This was new territory. For 12 years, I'd been the invisible machine that kept everything running. Now that machine was selectively malfunctioning. Is everything okay? He asked carefully. Everything's fine, Bernard. Why do you ask? You just seem different lately. I smiled at him. Not warm, not cold. Just neutral. I'm just tired, honey. Being 75 isn't easy. That wasn't entirely true. I wasn't tired. I was awake, fully awake for the first time in years. Cecilia's frustration grew as the weeks passed. She started making passive-aggressive comments at dinner. The house really needs a deep clean, Margareta. Are you planning to vacuum this week? I might. If I have time after my book club. Book club. I joined the church women's group after being invited for years. Suddenly, I had somewhere to be on Wednesday afternoons. She narrowed her eyes at me. You never had book club before. I do now. One morning, she confronted me directly. I was at the kitchen table, reading the newspaper, something I used to do before she decided my mornings belonged to cleaning up after her. She dropped a basket of wrinkled clothes at my feet. Margareta, what's going on? You're slacking. The house is a mess. Laundry isn't done. You forgot to pick up my prescription yesterday. I looked up slowly from my newspaper, met her eyes, let the silence stretch between us like a wire pulled tight. I'm 75, dear, I said quietly. Not a housekeeper. I'm your family. Her jaw clenched. Her face flushed pink. We had an agreement. No, Cecilia. You had a demand. There's a difference. Bernard said. Then perhaps you should discuss this with Bernard. She stood there, trembling with anger or shock. I couldn't tell which. Maybe both. For 12 years, I'd been soft, accommodating, easy to manage. This version of me was unfamiliar territory. She muttered something under her breath and stormed off, the basket of laundry still at my feet. I didn't touch it. I went back to my newspaper, though I couldn't focus on the words. My hands were shaking slightly, adrenaline pumping through my old veins. That evening, Bernard tried to mediate. He found me in the kitchen cooking dinner, just enough for Emma and me. Mom, Cecilia says you've been difficult lately, that you're not helping around the house like you used to. I continued stirring the pasta sauce. Is that what she said? Yeah. Look, I know she can be demanding sometimes, but we're all family here. We need to work together. I turned off the stove, faced him fully. My only son. My baby boy who'd grown into a man I barely recognized anymore. Bernard, do you know what your wife said to me 4 weeks ago? He shifted uncomfortably. She mentioned she asked you to help more with chores. She threw a rag at me and told me that cleaning and groceries are all mine now, that I have no right to free time, that I need to earn my keep. My voice stayed steady, but I watched his face change as the words landed. In my house, Bernard. The house I've lived in for 50 years. His face went pale. She didn't, Mom, she wouldn't.
She did.
And you told her it was fair. I never, he stopped. Closed his eyes. She said you both agreed that it made sense. That you were happy to help more, since you're home anyway. I'm not home, because I'm lazy, Bernard. I'm home because I'm 75 and I raised you, and I thought I'd earned the right to rest in my own house. The words hung between us like smoke. Heavy. Undeniable. He sank into a chair, head in his hands. I didn't know. Mom, I'm sorry. I thought. You thought I'd be fine with it, because I always am. I sat across from him. I've spent 12 years being fine, Bernard. 12 years making myself smaller, so Cecilia could feel bigger. 12 years watching my home turn into hers. And I'm done. What do you mean, done? I looked at my son, really looked at him, saw the guilt spreading across his face like a stain. I mean, I'm not a servant. I'm not hired help. I'm your mother, and this is my home. If Cecilia wants a clean house and fresh groceries, she can contribute like everyone else. Because quiet doesn't mean powerless, Bernard. And you're about to learn that lesson right alongside her. He opened his mouth to respond, but I stood up, ending the conversation. Your dinner is in the pot. Help yourself. I walked to my room, leaving him sitting there in the kitchen, finally, maybe for the first time, understanding what his silence had cost. Do you think Bernard will finally stand up to his wife? Or will he side with Cecilia again? Drop your prediction in the comments and don't forget to subscribe, because in the next chapter, Margareta makes a move that changes everything. You won't believe what she's been planning in secret. Mr. Langford's office smelled like old books and lemon polish. I sat across from him, my purse in my lap, watching him review the documents I'd requested. He was 82, sharp as ever, with white hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. He'd handled George's well when he passed. He'd been our family lawyer for 40 years. Margareta, he said finally, looking up at me over those glasses. Are you certain about this? I am. This is significant. Legally binding. Once we establish this trust with these conditions, it can't be easily undone. I understand. He leaned back in his chair, studying me. I've known you a long time. You've never been one for confrontation. This feels unlike you. I smiled softly. Maybe it's exactly like me. Just the version of me that got tired of being invisible. Does it surprise you that sometimes the kindest people are the ones who plan the most carefully? Leave a comment if you think quiet people are underestimated. He nodded slowly, then pulled out a fresh legal pad. All right then. Let's talk specifics. We spent 3 hours in that office. 3 hours outlining exactly how my estate would be structured. The house, my grandfather's house, the one I'd lived in for over 50 years, would be placed in an irrevocable trust. Upon my death, it would pass to Bernard, but only under specific conditions. Condition 1, Mr. Langford said, writing carefully. The beneficiary and his spouse must demonstrate consistent respect and shared household responsibilities. Yes. Condition 2, failure to meet these terms results in the estate being transferred to. He looked up at me. The Community Hope Foundation, I said. The charity I volunteered with for 30 years. They help struggling families, elderly residents, children's programs. If my family can't respect me, at least my home can help people who understand the value of kindness. He wrote it down. And you want annual reviews?
Yes.
Each year, the trustee, that's you, Mr. Langford, will assess whether the conditions are being met. If at any point before my death the situation becomes untenable, I have the right to revoke their residency entirely. That's airtight, Margareta. They won't be able to contest it. Good.
He put down his pen.
May I speak candidly? Always. This is going to shock them.
Deeply.
Are you prepared for the fallout? I thought about Cecilia's face when she threw that rag. Thought about Bernard's silence when she called me a burden. Thought about 12 years of being slowly erased in my own home. I'm prepared, I said. We signed the documents. Mr. Langford notarized them, filed them. By the time I walked out of his office that Thursday afternoon, my entire estate was legally protected. My house, my savings, my life's work. None of it could be taken for granted anymore. The autumn air was crisp. Leaves crunched under my feet as I walked to my car. I felt lighter somehow, stronger. Like I'd been carrying something heavy for years and finally set it down. When I got home, Cecilia was in the living room with her laptop, probably planning another expensive outing with her friends. She didn't look up when I came in. I'm making pot roast for dinner, I said pleasantly. Just letting you know. I'm going out, she said without looking at me. All right then. I went to the kitchen and started cooking. Not for her. For me, for Bernard, for little Emma. I chopped vegetables with precise, deliberate motions. Each cut felt intentional, purposeful. Bernard came home from work and found me humming at the stove. Smells amazing, Mom.
Thank you, sweetheart.
How was your day? We had a normal conversation. Pleasant.
Easy.
Like we used to before everything got complicated. But underneath my calm exterior, I was thinking about those documents sitting in Mr. Langford's office safe. Those legal words that would change everything. Cecilia came downstairs an hour later, dressed to go out. She grabbed her purse without a word to me. Cecilia, I said softly. She paused at the door, looking back with obvious impatience. I had some legal paperwork done today. Estate planning. Just wanted you to know. She shrugged. Okay. Why do I need to know? Just thought it was polite to mention. You and Bernard live here, after all. Seemed like something you should be aware of. She gave me a strange look, half curious, half dismissive. Whatever, Margareta. And she left. I turned back to my pot roast, smiling to myself. She had no idea.
None.
She thought estate planning was some boring old person task. She didn't understand that I'd just laid the foundation for everything that was coming. That night, after dinner, I sat in my reading chair, the one I'd moved back to its proper place in the living room when Cecilia was out. I'd also brought George's father's coffee table back upstairs from the basement. Cecilia would notice eventually, but I didn't care anymore. I opened the photo album again. George's face smiled up at me from our wedding day. I did it, I whispered to his picture. I protected our home, our legacy. It won't be taken for granted anymore. Outside, the October wind rattled the windows. Inside, Emma played with blocks on the floor near my feet. Bernard read the newspaper. Everything looked normal, peaceful. But beneath that surface, the ground had shifted.
The rules had changed.
And Cecilia didn't even know the game had started. Over the next week, I continued my quiet withdrawal. No dramatic confrontations. No shouting matches. Just consistent, deliberate boundaries. When Cecilia asked me to babysit so she could go to Pilates, I said, I have a doctor's appointment that day. Sorry, dear. I didn't have an appointment. I went to a matinee movie instead. Ate popcorn. Enjoyed myself. When she complained about the dust on the shelves, I said, feel free to handle it. The supplies are under the sink. When she wanted me to cook her specific meals, I made what I wanted and told her, there's plenty if you'd like some, but I'm not taking special requests anymore. Her frustration built like pressure in a kettle. She snapped at Bernard more, complained to her friends on the phone, stomped around the house with increasing irritation. But I stayed calm, polite, unmoved, because I had something she didn't. Legal protection. A plan. and the certainty that comes from finally standing up for yourself after years of being pushed down. One evening, about 2 weeks after my meeting with Mr. Langford, Cecilia cornered me in the kitchen. "What is your problem, Margareta?" I looked up from washing my dishes for my dinner. "I don't have a problem, dear." "Yes, you do. Ever since our conversation about you helping more around here, you've been difficult. Stubborn. It's childish." I dried my hands slowly on a towel. Met her eyes. "I'm not being stubborn, Cecilia. I'm being clear. This is my home. I'm not your employee. And if you want a clean house and home-cooked meals and free childcare, you need to start treating me like family instead of staff." Her face flushed red. "I do treat you like family."
No.
"You treat me like an obligation, like something to manage. And I'm done accepting that." She stepped closer, voice dropping to something dangerous. "You realize we could leave, right? Take Emma and find our own place. Then you'd be here all alone." I smiled.
Soft.
Knowing. "Then leave, Cecilia. See how far your lifestyle gets you without my free labor and free housing." She stared at me, shocked. For 12 years, I'd been easy to intimidate, easy to control. This version of me, this woman who smiled while drawing lines in sand, was foreign to her. She turned and stormed out, her footsteps heavy on the stairs. I went back to washing dishes, hands steady in the warm water, because she didn't know yet, didn't understand that I wasn't making empty threats, that I had already built the cage around her comfortable life, and she was just now starting to feel the bars. The real reckoning was still coming, and when it arrived, it would be absolute. Are you ready to see what happens when Cecilia's perfect life starts crumbling? Comment yes, and hit subscribe because Chapter 6 is where everything starts falling apart, and you won't want to miss a single moment of it. The credit card declined at the grocery store checkout. Cecilia stood there, designer purse on her arm, cart full of expensive organic everything, while the teenage cashier ran her card a second time. Then a third. "Ma'am, it's saying insufficient funds." I wasn't there to see it, but Cecilia's friend Jennifer told her friend Maria, who told someone at church who told me. Small towns are like that. News travels faster than prayer requests. Apparently, Cecilia's face went white. She pulled out a different card. That one worked, but barely. She left half her cart behind and rushed out, humiliated. Later that evening, I heard the fight through the ceiling. "We're broke, Bernard." "How are we broke?" "We're not broke. We're just tight this month." "Tight?" "The credit cards are maxed out. Our savings is almost gone." What happened? What happened was simple. Without my invisible labor, everything cost money. The house cleaner they had to hire, $300 twice a month. The meal delivery service to replace my cooking, $600 a month. The emergency babysitter when I wasn't available, $20 an hour. All those things I'd been doing for free suddenly had price tags. Have you ever realized how much someone was actually doing for you only after they stopped? Tell me in the comments about a time you took someone for granted. Cecilia's perfect life was cracking, and I hadn't raised my voice once. Her Friday brunches became less frequent. The expensive Pilates membership got canceled. I noticed her wearing the same outfits more often, the designer shopping bags no longer appearing in the hallway. She tried to pull me back into service one afternoon. "Margareta, I really need you to watch Emma tomorrow. I have an important meeting. I have book club. Can't you skip it? Just this once?"
No, dear.
I've skipped things for 12 years. Not anymore.
Her jaw clenched.
You're being incredibly selfish. Am I? Or am I just matching your energy? She had no answer for that. Bernard tried to smooth things over. He was caught in the middle, finally seeing both sides clearly. One evening, he came to my room, knocked softly. "Mom, can we talk?" "Of course." He sat on the edge of my bed, looking exhausted. "Cecilia's struggling. We both are. Money's tight.
She's stressed.
And I know she hasn't always been kind to you, but Bernard, stop. I put down my book. Your wife threw a rag at me and told me I had no right to free time. In my own home, she treated me like hired help, and you let her. So no, I'm not going to rescue her from the consequences of her own disrespect. He flinched. I said I was sorry. Sorry doesn't undo 12 years. Sorry doesn't rebuild what she tore down. My voice was gentle but firm. You want things to get better? She needs to change. Really change. Not just when money's tight. He nodded slowly, understanding settling in his eyes. Cecilia's frustration peaked one Saturday morning. I was in the garden, planting fall bulbs, when she stormed out. This is ridiculous, Margareta. You're punishing us like children. I looked up, dirt under my fingernails, perfectly calm. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm simply living my life the way I choose. In my house. Your house, she repeated bitterly. You never let us forget that, do you? You never let me forget I was supposed to be grateful you allowed me to live here. I stood up, brushed off my knees. Funny how perspective changes when the power shifts. Her face twisted with anger and something else. Fear, maybe. The realization that she'd built her comfortable life on sand, and the tide was coming in. You're a bitter old woman, she spat. Perhaps. But I'm a bitter old woman who owns the roof over your head. I smiled. Something to remember, dear. She turned and went back inside, slamming the door. I returned to my bulbs, planting them one by one. Come spring, they'd bloom. Beautiful and strong. Just like me. That week, Bernard finally did something I'd been waiting years to see. He stood up to Cecilia. I heard them arguing upstairs. She's my mother, Cecilia. This is her house. We've been living here rent-free for 12 years. We owe her respect at the very least. She's making our lives miserable.
No.
She stopped making our lives easy. There's a difference. And honestly, we deserved it. Silence. Then Cecilia's voice, smaller. So you're taking her side? I'm taking the side of what's right. And we've been wrong. I've been wrong. I let you treat my mother like she was invisible, and I'm ashamed of myself. More silence. Then crying. Not manipulative tears, real ones. The sound of someone realizing they'd lost control of a narrative they'd been writing for years. I sat in my chair downstairs, listening, feeling something shift in the air. Not forgiveness yet. Not trust. But maybe the first hint of change. The next morning, Cecilia appeared in the kitchen while I made coffee. She looked tired, humbled. Can I talk to you? Of course. She sat down heavily. I know I haven't been kind to you. I know I took advantage. I got comfortable. And I forgot that this wasn't my house. That you weren't. I don't know. I forgot you were a person with feelings and needs. I sipped my coffee. Waited. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she continued. I know I don't deserve it. But I want to try. To be better. To contribute. To respect you. Why now? I asked quietly. Because money's tight? Because you need me again?
No.
Because Bernard made me see what I'd become. And I don't like it. She looked at me, really looked at me. I was raised to fight for what I wanted. To be strong, take charge, not let anyone push me around. But somewhere along the way, I turned that into being cruel. Into pushing you around. I studied her face. Saw genuine shame there. Genuine regret. But I also knew something she didn't. Something that would test whether this change was real or just temporary convenience. Cecilia, I appreciate you saying this.
But words are easy.
Actions matter. I know. I'll prove it to you. Good. Because you're going to need to. She nodded and left. And I sat there with my coffee, knowing that the real test was still coming. Because in 2 weeks, I was going to do something that would change everything. Something that would force her to prove whether this new humility was genuine or just an act to survive until she could take control again. The disaster was already planned. I'd set it in motion weeks ago. And when it arrived, it would be spectacular. Can Cecilia truly change? Or is she just saying what Margareta wants to hear? Drop your predictions in the comments and don't forget to subscribe, because the next chapter reveals the moment everything falls apart for Cecilia, and you won't believe what Margareta does. The invitation arrived on cream-colored cardstock with gold lettering. You are cordially invited to celebrate Cecilia Alden's 40th birthday. Saturday, November 15th, 6 p.m. Dinner, drinks, and dancing. Cecilia had been planning this party for months. Back when money wasn't tight. Back when she assumed I'd handle all the cooking, decorating, and setup like I always did for family events. She'd invited 40 people. Her friends, Bernard's colleagues, neighbors. She wanted it perfect, a showcase of her perfect life in her perfect home. She just forgot one detail. It wasn't her home. The Thursday before the party, she found me in the living room reading. Margareta, I wanted to go over the menu for Saturday. I'm thinking appetizers at 6, dinner at 7, dessert at 8:30. I'll need you to start prep work Friday afternoon. Oh, I won't be here Friday, I said pleasantly. She blinked. What? I'm going on a church retreat. Leaving Friday morning, back Sunday evening. The color drained from her face. You're what?
No.
No, you can't. The party is Saturday. I know, dear. Have a wonderful time. Margareta, this isn't funny. I need you here. The cooking, the setup, everything. Then I suggest you handle it yourself. Or hire someone. I hear caterers are quite good, though expensive. Have you ever canceled plans on someone who took you for granted? Tell me in the comments what happened next. She stood there, frozen, her perfect party crumbling in her mind. You're doing this on purpose.
You're sabotaging me.
I'm going on a retreat I planned 6 weeks ago. I even mentioned it to you twice. You didn't listen because you assumed I'd just be here, waiting to serve you. I closed my book. That assumption was your mistake, not my sabotage. Bernard, she screamed. Bernard, get down here. He appeared concerned. What's wrong? Your mother is abandoning us the weekend of my birthday party.
Bernard looked at me.
I looked back calmly. Mom, is this true? I'm going on a church retreat. I told Cecilia about it. Twice. He turned to Cecilia. You didn't plan for this? I didn't think she was serious. I thought she stopped. Realized what she was about to say. That she thought I'd cancel my plans for her. Like always. Bernard's face hardened. So you expected Mom to just be available. Didn't even consider she might have her own life. We can discuss blame later, Cecilia said frantically. Right now, we need to fix this. Margareta, please. I'm begging you. Skip the retreat. Just this once. Help me with the party, and I swear I'll. No. One word. Final as a door closing. You can't do this to me, she whispered. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm doing something for me. And you'll manage. You're a strong, capable woman. You tell me that all the time. I picked up my book and started reading again. The conversation was over. Friday morning, I packed my small suitcase. The church van was picking me up at 9. Cecilia watched from the kitchen, pale and frantic, her phone pressed to her ear as she tried to find a last-minute caterer. Yes, 40 people. Tomorrow night. I know it's short notice. What do you mean you're booked? I walked past her with my suitcase. There's a note on the kitchen counter. Emergency numbers, Emma's bedtime routine, that sort of thing. Have a lovely party, dear. Margareta, wait. But I was already out the door. The retreat was peaceful. Beautiful. We had workshops on meditation, communal meals, quiet time by a lake. I didn't think about the party once. Didn't worry. Didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Saturday evening, around 7 o'clock, my phone rang. Bernard. Mom, where are you? At the retreat, honey. Is everything all right? The party is a disaster. Complete disaster. Cecilia's losing her mind. Half the food didn't get delivered. The house isn't decorated. She's running around in her party dress trying to set up tables and nobody's helping and guests are arriving and Mom, please, can you come home? I sat on the bench overlooking the lake, phone pressed to my ear, and I felt something powerful move through me. Not anger, not satisfaction, just certainty. No, Bernard. Mom. She treated me like a servant for 12 years. She threw a rag at me in my own kitchen. She told me I had no right to free time. And now, when she needs me, she expects me to come running. I kept my voice gentle, kind even. The answer is no. She made her choices. These are the consequences. People are here, Mom. She's humiliated. Then maybe she'll learn something about humility. And maybe you'll learn something about taking people for granted. Silence on the other end. Long and heavy. I'm sorry, he said finally. For all of it. I know you are, honey. But sorry doesn't fix this. Actions do. I'll see you Sunday. I hung up, sat there by the lake as the sun set, painting everything gold and pink. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power. Not the cruel kind. The kind that comes from finally standing up for yourself. From drawing a line and meaning it. The next day, Jennifer, Cecilia's friend who'd become somewhat friendly with me through church, called. Margareta, I just wanted to let you know, the party was rough. Cecilia ended up ordering pizza.
Pizza.
For her 40th birthday party. Half the guests left early. She cried in the bathroom. Bernard looked shell-shocked. How unfortunate, I said calmly. You planned this, didn't you? I planned a retreat. What Cecilia chose to do with that information was up to her. Jennifer laughed. You're tougher than you look, Margareta. Thank you, dear. Sunday evening I came home. The house was quiet. Decorations still hung half-done. Empty pizza boxes sat on the counter. The dining room looked like a party that died halfway through. Cecilia sat on the couch, still in her expensive party dress, makeup smeared. She looked up when I came in. You destroyed me, she said hoarsely.
No, dear.
I let you destroy yourself. I set down my suitcase. For 12 years, I made your life easy. I was the invisible foundation of everything you took for granted. And the moment I stepped back, everything crumbled. That's not my fault. That's yours. She stared at me, and I saw something break in her eyes. Not anger. Understanding. Painful, humiliating understanding. Bernard appeared from the kitchen. Mom, we need to talk. Yes, I said. We do. All three of us.
Tomorrow.
My lawyer's office. 10 a.m. Cecilia's head snapped up. Lawyer. I smiled.
Calm. Certain.
Unmovable. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Don't be late. And I walked upstairs to my room, leaving them sitting in the ruins of the party. In the ruins of their assumptions. In the ruins of everything they'd built on disrespect. The real reckoning was tomorrow, and they had no idea what was coming. Are you ready to see what Margareta has been planning this whole time? Comment yes if you think Cecilia finally understands what she's lost. And hit that subscribe button. The next chapter reveals the legal ball Margareta is about to drop, and it's going to blow your mind. Mr. Langford's office was cold that Monday morning. Cecilia and Bernard sat across from me, both looking confused and nervous. Mr. Langford sat at the head of the table, reading glasses on, manila folder in front of him labeled, Alden Estate Trust. Thank you all for coming, he began. Mrs. Alden has requested this meeting to clarify certain legal arrangements regarding her estate. Cecilia glanced at Bernard, then at me. I don't understand. Why do we need to be here for this? Because it directly concerns you, I said quietly. Mr. Langford opened the folder. 6 weeks ago, Mrs. Alden established an irrevocable trust containing all her assets. This includes the property at 247 Maple Street, the house where you currently reside, as well as her savings, investments, and personal effects. Bernard leaned forward. Mom, What is this? This is me protecting what's mine, I said, and making sure it goes to people who actually respect me. Mr. Langford continued, reading from the documents. Upon Mrs. Alden's death, the property and assets will pass to Bernard Alden. However, this inheritance is conditional. The room went silent. Cecilia's face went pale. Conditional on what? She whispered. On demonstrated respect, shared household responsibilities, and appropriate treatment of Mrs. Alden during her lifetime. Mr. Langford looked up over his glasses. The trust includes annual reviews. If these conditions are not met, the entire estate, house, savings, everything, will be transferred to the Community Hope Foundation. Have you ever seen someone realize they've lost all their power in an instant? Tell me in the comments if you've ever witnessed a moment like this. Cecilia's hands gripped the armrests of her chair. You can't do this. I already did, I said calmly, 6 weeks ago. It's legally binding and irrevocable. But that's our house, she stammered. Bernard grew up there. It's supposed to go to him. It will go to him. If you both treat me with the respect I deserve. If you contribute equally to the household. If you remember that I'm family, not staff. Bernard sat back, stunned.
Mom,
I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything, honey. You need to do something. You need to stand up to your wife when she's wrong. You need to defend me. You need to remember whose home you're living in. Mr. Langford tapped the document. The trust also includes a clause allowing Mrs. Alden to revoke your residency at any time if conditions become intolerable. She doesn't have to wait until her death to take action. Cecilia's breathing quickened. So you're holding the house over our heads, threatening us.
No, dear.
I'm setting boundaries. Something I should have done 12 years ago. I leaned forward. You came into my home and slowly tried to erase me. You made me feel small and invisible and worthless. You threw a rag at me and told me I had no right to exist except to serve you. Did you think there would be no consequences for that? Tears spilled down her cheeks. Not manipulative ones this time. Real ones. The kind that come when you realize you've lost something you can never get back. I said I was sorry, she choked out. You said sorry because money got tight and you needed me. Not because you actually understood what you did. I kept my voice gentle but firm. This trust ensures that if you ever forget again, if you ever slip back into treating me like hired help, there are real consequences. Legal ones. Bernard put his head in his hands. I can't believe it came to this. It came to this because you allowed your wife to disrespect me for years. Because you stayed silent when you should have spoken up. Because you chose peace over justice. I reached across the table and touched his hand. But you can still fix this. You can still earn what I want to give you. It just won't be handed to you anymore. Mr. Langford cleared his throat. I have copies of the trust documents here for your review. I suggest you read them carefully. Understand what's required. And then decide how you want to move forward. He slid folders across the table to Bernard and Cecilia. She didn't touch hers. Just stared at it like it was a snake. How are we supposed to live like this? She asked quietly. Constantly worried you'll take everything away? The same way I've lived for 12 years, I said. Constantly worried I'd be thrown out of my own home. Constantly walking on eggshells. Constantly wondering if today would be the day you decided I was too much trouble. She flinched. The difference is, I continued, you actually have a choice. You can choose respect. You can choose kindness. You can choose to be family instead of entitled guests. And if you do that genuinely, consistently, nothing gets taken away. The house will be Bernard's one day. Your future will be secure. And if we don't, Bernard asked quietly, then you'll have to find your own place. And my home will help people who understand the value of community and kindness. I stood up. The choice, as always, has been yours. Mr. Langford stood as well. I'll be conducting the first annual review in 6 months. I suggest you use that time wisely. We left the office in silence. Outside, fall leaves swirled in the parking lot. The sky was gray and heavy, threatening rain. Cecilia stood by their car, arms wrapped around herself. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe it took 12 years for me to do it, I replied. Bernard looked between us. What happens now? Now you go home and decide what kind of people you want to be, what kind of family you want to have. I unlocked my car door, and I go home knowing that my dignity isn't negotiable anymore. I drove away, leaving them standing in that parking lot. In my rearview mirror, I saw Cecilia collapse against Bernard, sobbing. Saw him hold her, his face twisted with conflict and shame. And I felt not happy, not victorious, just settled, like a bone that had been broken for years finally setting properly. The power was back where it belonged. In my hands, in my home, in my life. And they would never take it from me again. Do you think Cecilia and Bernard will actually change? Or was this just a temporary scare? Drop your thoughts in the comments and make sure you're subscribed, because the next chapter shows you whether this family can actually heal, or if Margaretta's quiet justice has only just begun. The first thing that changed was the laundry. 3 days after the lawyers' meeting, I came downstairs to find Cecilia in the laundry room, folding clothes. Not just hers. Mine too. Bernard's. Emma's. All of it, carefully sorted and folded. She looked up when I appeared in the doorway. Morning. Morning, I said carefully. She finished folding a towel. I made coffee. It's in the pot. I nodded and went to the kitchen. Sure enough, fresh coffee. The kind I liked, not her expensive imported stuff. And the kitchen was clean. Actually clean. Counters wiped down, dishes done, floor swept. Bernard appeared, Emma on his hip. Morning, Mom. We made pancakes earlier. There's a plate for you in the microwave. I heated up the pancakes, watching them move around the kitchen. Working together. Bernard wiping Emma's face. Cecilia putting away dishes. It felt strange. Not bad. Just different. Over the next few weeks, things continued to shift. Slowly.
Carefully.
Like people learning a new language. Cecilia started asking before making changes to the house. Margareta, would it be okay if I repainted the bathroom? I'll pay for it, of course. I just thought maybe a softer color. What color were you thinking? Maybe that yellow you had before? I was looking at old photos and it was pretty. I shouldn't have changed it without asking. Have you ever seen someone truly work to make up for their mistakes? Tell me in the comments about a time someone proved they could change. She repainted the bathroom yellow, the exact shade George and I had chosen. She brought George's father's coffee table back to the living room herself, placing it in its original spot. I'm sorry I moved this, she said quietly. I didn't understand what it meant to you. Bernard started speaking up. Small things at first. Cecilia, Mom's tired. Let's handle dinner tonight. Then bigger things. Don't talk to my mother like that. She deserves respect. The first time he said that, Cecilia had snapped at me about leaving dishes in the sink. The old Bernard would have stayed silent. This Bernard stood up. I wasn't being rude, Cecilia protested. Your tone was disrespectful. Apologize.
She did. And it was genuine.
Groceries became a shared task. Cecilia and I went together sometimes and she'd ask, what do you need this week? What do you like? Actually listening to the answers. Cleaning became a rotation. Bernard vacuumed on Saturdays. Cecilia handled bathrooms. I did what I wanted, when I wanted, without obligation. Dinners changed too. We started eating together, really together.
Talking.
Laughing sometimes. Emma told stories about school. Bernard shared work frustrations. Cecilia asked about my church activities like she actually cared. One evening, about 2 months after the lawyer meeting, Cecilia came to my room, knocked softly. Can I talk to you? Of course. She sat on the edge of my bed, hands folded in her lap. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about how I made you feel invisible.
And
I need you to know that I see it now. Really see it. I waited. I was raised to be strong, to take control, to never show weakness. And somewhere along the way, I confused strength with cruelty. I confused taking charge with taking over. She looked at me, eyes wet. You were kind to me when I moved in. You welcomed me, and I repaid that by slowly pushing you out of your own life. I'm ashamed of myself. Why are you telling me this now? I asked gently, because I need you to know it's not just about the trust. It's not just fear of losing the house. I genuinely hate who I became, and I'm trying to be better, really trying. I studied her face, saw genuine remorse, genuine effort.
I see that, I said.
And I appreciate it. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Thank you for not giving up on us, for giving us a chance to fix this. After she left, I sat there for a long time thinking. Change is hard. Real change, the kind that lasts, takes time and consistency. But I was seeing it.
Slowly.
In small moments and big gestures. Bernard pulled me aside one Sunday after church. Mom, I know I can't undo the past, but I want you to know, I see you now, really see you, and I'm so sorry it took this long. I know, honey. Cecilia and I talked about moving out, getting our own place, giving you your space back. My heart clenched, not with relief, with something more complicated. What did you decide? I asked. We want to stay, if you'll let us, but differently, as family, real family, contributing, respecting, not taking advantage. He smiled sadly. The house feels more like home now than it ever did before, because it feels honest. I hugged him, held my son close. Then stay, but keep your word. I will. We both will. The holidays came. Thanksgiving. We cooked together, all three of us. Cecilia asked for my recipes. Bernard carved the turkey. We set the table with George's grandmother's dishes, the ones I'd packed away years ago when Cecilia declared them outdated. We ate together, said grace, shared what we were thankful for. I'm thankful for second chances, Cecilia said quietly, and for women who are strong enough to demand respect. I looked at her across the table, saw someone different than the woman who'd thrown a rag at me months ago. Not perfect, still learning, but trying. I'm thankful for family, I said, when it remembers to act like family. Emma clapped, not understanding the weight of the moment, but feeling the warmth of it. Later that night, after everyone was asleep, I sat in the living room. George's father's coffee table in front of me, the yellow bathroom down the hall. My home, still mine, but shared now in a way that felt right. I thought about the trust sitting in Mr. Langford's office, the legal protection I'd built, and I realized something. I might never dissolve it, might keep it active even if they continued improving. Not as a threat, but as a reminder.
A boundary.
A line that said, respect isn't optional. Because quiet strength doesn't mean forgiveness without accountability. It means holding space for change while protecting yourself from ever being diminished again. And I had found that space, that balance. The house was peaceful. The power was shared. The respect was real. And for the first time in 12 years, I felt like I was home. Do you believe people can truly change, or do you think Cecilia is just playing a long game? Comment your honest thoughts below and keep watching, because the final chapter reveals whether this peace lasts and what Margareta does to ensure her legacy is protected forever. The cherry blossoms were blooming when Mr. Langford called. Margareta, it's time for the 6-month review. Can you come in next Tuesday? Of course. I hung up the phone and looked out the kitchen window.
Spring had arrived.
The garden was waking up. Those fall bulbs I'd planted were pushing through the soil, ready to bloom. A lot can happen in 6 months. A lot can change. or a lot can stay the same beneath a pretty surface. Bernard and Cecilia had been different since the lawyer meeting. Respectful, helpful, present in ways they hadn't been before. But the real test was coming. The review. The moment Mr. Langford would assess whether their change was genuine or just performance. I didn't tell them about the appointment. Wanted to see how they acted when they thought no one was watching. That weekend, I watched. Really watched. Saturday morning, Cecilia got up early and made breakfast. Not just for herself. For everyone. She called up to Bernard. Breakfast in 10 minutes. Then she came to my door. Margareta? I made those lemon pancakes you mentioned liking. If you're hungry. Have you ever watched someone work to earn back trust? Tell me in the comments if you think second chances are worth it. At breakfast, Bernard helped Emma with her homework at the table while Cecilia and I did dishes together. She washed, I dried. Like it was normal. Like it had always been this way. Emma's got a school project due Monday, Bernard said. She needs to build a model of the solar system. Any chance you'd want to help, Mom? You were always good at craft projects. I'd love to, I said. Cecilia smiled. I'll pick up supplies this afternoon.
They included me.
Naturally. Not as free labor, but as family. Sunday, we went to church together. All four of us. Cecilia sat beside me, shared a hymnal, whispered a joke during the announcements that made me laugh. After service, she introduced me to her friends, not as Bernard's mother who lives with us, but as my mother-in-law, Margareta. The shift was subtle, but significant. That evening, while Bernard put Emma to bed, Cecilia found me in the garden. Can I help?
Sure.
Grab those gloves. We worked in silence for a while, pulling weeds, planting new flowers. The kind of comfortable silence that only comes when people are truly at ease with each other. Margareta, she said finally, I know there's a trust. I know we're being evaluated. And I want you to know, what we're doing isn't because we're scared of losing the house. I kept working, didn't look up. No. It's because we were wrong. Because you deserved better. Because this is what we should have been doing all along. She pulled a stubborn dandelion root. The trust made us see that. But it's not why we're changing. We're changing because it's right. I looked at her then. Saw dirt under her manicured nails. Saw genuine effort in her eyes. Good, I said simply. Tuesday came. I went to Mr. Langford's office alone. He sat across from me, reading notes. I've observed the household over the past 6 months. Checked in with neighbors, church members, people who interact with your family regularly. And the change appears genuine. Cecilia has been seen doing household tasks, treating you with respect in public. Bernard stands up for you. The division of labor is equitable. By all accounts, the conditions of the trust are being met. I nodded slowly. So, he continued, do you want to continue with annual reviews or dissolve the conditional nature of the trust? I thought about that. Thought about Cecilia's dirty fingernails in the garden. About Bernard defending me. About breakfasts and church and shared silences.
Keep it, I said.
He raised his eyebrows. Keep the conditions?
Yes.
Not because I don't trust their change, but because boundaries matter. Because respect shouldn't be conditional on my death being convenient. I leaned forward. That trust isn't punishment anymore, Mr. Langford. It's protection. It's a promise that I will never be invisible in my own home again. He smiled. Understood. I'll schedule the next review for 12 months from now. But I wasn't done. There's one more thing I want to add to the trust. What's that? Emma's education. I want a separate fund established for her college, fully funded, managed independently. Whether Bernard and Cecilia inherit the house or not, that child gets her future secured. Because she's innocent in all this. And because investments in the next generation matter more than holding grudges against the current one. He made notes. I'll have the documents drawn up by Friday. I drove home feeling lighter. The trust would remain, a quiet guardian, a boundary that said respect matters. But I'd also built something new, something forward-looking, something that said I believed in forgiveness without forgetting. That evening, I called a family meeting. Bernard, Cecilia, and I sat in the living room. Emma was at a friend's house. I had my review with Mr. Langford today, I said. They tensed, exchanged glances. You passed. Relief washed over their faces. But, I continued, the trust remains. The conditions stay in place. This isn't about punishing you. It's about protecting me and making sure we never go back to how things were. Bernard nodded. We understand. Good. Because there's something else. I pulled out the papers Mr. Langford had given me. I've established an education fund for Emma. Fully funded. No matter what happens with the house or inheritance, her college is paid for. Her future is secure. Cecilia's hand went to her mouth. Margareta, she's my granddaughter. And she deserves to know that family means looking out for each other. Really looking out for each other. I set the papers on George's father's coffee table. This is what respect looks like. This is what family looks like. Bernard's eyes filled with tears. Mom, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. Just keep doing what you've been doing. Keep being the family I raised you to be. Cecilia crossed the room and hugged me. Really hugged me. Not the polite, obligatory kind from years ago. The kind that says thank you, and I'm sorry, and I see you all at once. Thank you, she whispered, for not giving up on us. For teaching us what we should have known all along. That night, after they went upstairs, I sat in my reading chair. The house was quiet, peaceful. Mine again, but in a way that felt complete rather than lonely. I thought about George, about the life we'd built here, about the woman I'd been when he was alive. Kind, yes, but maybe too willing to shrink myself for peace. I learned something, George, I whispered to his memory. Kindness doesn't mean silence. Love doesn't mean acceptance of disrespect. And quiet strength is still strength. The cherry blossoms outside swayed in the evening breeze. Spring was here. New growth. New beginnings. But rooted in old strength, old foundations that wouldn't be moved again. Over the following months, life settled into something beautiful. Not perfect. Perfection is a lie. But real. Honest. Built on mutual respect and clear boundaries. Cecilia started a small business from home, teaching marketing skills online. She was good at it. Confident without being cruel. Strong without being domineering. Bernard got a promotion at work. Started coming home earlier, spending more time with Emma, helping around the house without being asked. And me? I joined more church committees. Started a book club at the community center. Traveled to visit old friends I'd been too busy, too diminished to see before. I lived. Fully. In my own home, on my own terms, surrounded by family who finally understood what family meant. 1 year later, at the next trust review, Mr. Langford smiled across his desk. Margareta, I've never seen a more dramatic and sustained change in a family dynamic. Whatever you did, it worked. I didn't do anything extraordinary, I said. I just stopped accepting less than I deserved. He chuckled. Sometimes that's the most extraordinary thing a person can do. I left his office that day knowing something profound. Justice doesn't always look like revenge. Sometimes it looks like boundaries. Sometimes it looks like legal documents that say your dignity matters. Sometimes it looks like watching people you love learn to love you better. And sometimes the quietest revolutions are the ones that last. 2 years after the rag hit my counter, Cecilia and I were in the garden together. She'd become genuinely interested in planting, learning the names of flowers, understanding seasons and soil. Margareta, she said, hands deep in dirt, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you forgive me? Really forgive me? I stopped working, looked at her. At this woman who'd thrown a rag at me and told me I had no right to free time. This woman who'd learned, slowly and painfully, what respect actually means. Yes, I said. I do. Even though you kept the trust isn't about unforgiveness. It's about wisdom. It's about knowing that people can change and still need reminders. It's about protecting myself while making space for you to be better. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm grateful. For your patience. For your strength. For not just throwing us out. I'm grateful you were willing to learn. Not everyone is. We went back to planting, side by side. Two women who'd fought a quiet war and found a better peace on the other side. That evening, as I sat on the porch watching the sunset, Emma brought me a picture she'd drawn at school. It's our family, Grandma.
See?
That's you in the middle, because you're the most important. I looked at the crayon drawing. Me in the center, smiling. Bernard and Cecilia on either side. Emma in front. Our house behind us, sturdy and strong. It's beautiful, sweetheart. Teacher said to draw the person who keeps our family together. That's you. I hugged her close. This innocent child who'd been caught in the middle of adult mistakes and adult growth. You know what keeps a family together, Emma? What? Respect. Kindness. And knowing that love isn't the same as letting people treat you badly. She didn't fully understand. She was too young. But one day she would. One day she'd be a woman who knew her worth, who demanded respect, who understood that quiet strength is real strength. And maybe that was the real legacy. Not the house. Not the money. But the lesson. That kindness is not weakness. That boundaries matter. That you can love people and still require them to treat you well. That justice doesn't always need noise to echo through generations. I sat on that porch, granddaughter in my arms, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. And I knew, deep in my bones, that I'd done something right. I'd reclaimed my dignity. I'd rebuilt my family. I'd protected my peace. And I'd done it all without raising my voice. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to be small anymore. The house stood strong behind me. The trust sat secure in Mr. Langford's office. My family moved inside, preparing dinner together, laughing, living. And I sat there, a 77-year-old woman who'd learned that it's never too late to stand up for yourself. Never too late to draw boundaries. Never too late to teach people how you deserve to be treated. The cherry blossoms bloomed again that spring. And they would bloom again next spring. And the spring after that.
Just like me.
Just like my quiet strength. Just like justice that doesn't scream, but still changes everything. I closed my eyes, felt the evening breeze, and smiled. Because I was home. Really home. And no one would ever take that from me again. If this story moved you, if Margaretta's journey inspired you, hit that like button right now. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to stand up for yourself. And subscribe to this channel. Turn on those notifications, because we share stories like this every week. Stories about real people finding their strength, setting boundaries, and reclaiming their dignity. Drop a comment below telling us what lesson you're taking from Margaretta's story. What will you do differently after hearing this? Your comment might inspire someone else who's struggling right now. Thank you for being part of this family. We'll see you in the next story.